And obviously building a relationship up with Steven Gerrard, did that come about after your experiences within that role at Liverpool and then getting the opportunity to go to Glasgow Rangers?
Yeah, that was a strange one, really, because in the time I had when I was Liverpool under-23s coach, we had a lot of ex-players come in and work around the group. You know, we had Rob Jones and Stephen Manham and Robbie Fowler. Kenny Dalglish used to come in. It was brilliant for me as a young coach having these guys in. And it was said that Stephen was coming back and was going to be in and around the academy for 6 months. So I was actually looking forward to him coming in and perhaps spending a bit of time, you know, working around the group. But it coincided with me leaving. So Stephen hadn't come back from into the academy until I'd left to go to Brazil. So when I came back the following September, the end of September later that year, Stephen was taking the under-18, but our jobs and roles never overlapped. We never really got past hello. So the day that he asked me to go and work with him at Rangers was a surprise to myself. I thought that I would stay at Liverpool and move back up the age groups that summer, but it was a nice surprise. And the moment I sat and spoke to Stephen about, you know, what he wanted and his ambitions, then I felt it was an unbelievable opportunity to follow him, you know.
And obviously going up to Scotland, do you understand the magnitude of Rangers? Was it something that you knew previously, or did you have to learn about that? Obviously, a bit of a turbulent time with COVID, etc. there, and fans in and out of the stadium. What was it like learning about the club? Because you mentioned obviously learning from your past experiences at the other clubs, and then coming into men's first team management in terms of being an assistant to Gerrard, etc. Talk to me about that process.
Listen, Stephen was absolutely fantastic to work for. Not just Stephen, obviously his assistant was Gary McAllister, two really famous people, both national team captains. There was so much I could learn from them. There was certainly some areas that I could give to them as well in terms of on-field coaching, and Stephen's way is to stand back a little bit more and observe, and he gave me a great deal of freedom and trust and autonomy to put my ideas into the team. And for that 3.5 years originally that we was at Rangers together before going to Aston Villa, it was fantastic. It was clear that it was a huge club, but obviously it was making its way back from 2012 and being dropped down the leagues. It was making its way back. There was a huge turnover of players in the time I was there with Stephen. We had to rebuild the squad, but then we had to rebuild the squad again to achieve more. We did that through Europe. I think both with Stephen and then my second time there, I had 60 games in either the Europa League or Champions League qualifiers. So that was an unbelievable experience in terms of playing against some of the elite teams in Europe. But also, Rangers is an unbelievable football club. I moved my family, where some of the other staff would kept their family in because their children were in schools and settled and had their extended family in Liverpool. But I moved my family up. As I say, my daughter was born here, and we're really happy where we live out in the countryside. But as a football club, the fan base is huge. The expectations are also huge, and there was an incredible highs, but there was more than a few lows along that journey as well, because the expectations and the emotions around a club like this are so big.
Obviously, that 10 in a row was lingering when you were there. How did you build a title winning team? Is there anything that you can put your finger on justifying how the title come about to Rangers at that time?
The expectation in the city, it was the big talking point. It was what it was the remit to come in and win the league in that time. And thankfully we did it in the last year. To win 55th championship for Rangers was our motto. It wasn't so much stopping, it was more like us winning, which I think was important mentally. We slowly made we made steady progress every season. There was a lot of good signs, but whether we fell short or we fell this. And I think the break that we had for the COVID period was really important. The way that we managed that period for the players and their families, that obviously were in an uncertain time like ourselves, I felt brought the bond even closer. It was close, but it brought bond was even closer. And obviously in that season, I think we played 56 games and we only lost 2 in normal time. We lost 1 on penalties and then we lost 2 other games. But in the league, in the 38 league games, we were unbeaten, which for that Rangers team, when I look back now, was a huge achievement. There was a lot of work that went into it, some fantastic I think the team's relationship was very important to that. I felt that Steven managed, and Gary, myself, Tom, the other staff, Jordan, Scott, that tight staff was obviously essential. But what I saw there was the players, the changing room, and the way they felt about each other had a big part to play. And naturally, we were pushing to get better, and our biggest rivals at the time were going for a big achievement themselves, and maybe it was better to be the chasers in that scenario. And obviously that season, it was successful. Even saying that, we did win the league as Invincibles, which is incredible, but we should have won more. My ultimate feeling of that is it's a wonderful achievement, but we lost in the 2 cups when I think we should have won more that season.
Everything that you see on this channel, from the scripts to the interviews to the thumbnails, etc., is all off my own back. And to help the channel grow and to help me out, could you please click the subscribe button down below? It's absolutely free to do, and the more subscribers we get on this channel, the bigger the guests and the bigger the entertainment is for you to have some great insights to explore some of the things that are happening within the sporting world. So please click the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. I always think, and this is from my personal point of view, I always think Glasgow Rangers and Glasgow Celtic are fantastic football clubs, but it's the league rather than the clubs. And I think when Aston Villa come knocking, it's being back in the Premier League, all these different incentives to support the project as a whole. Was that kind of the outlook to you? Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was that something that was part of the process?
The Scottish League's a great league in itself, and it's well supported. The amount of people that go to watch football every week in Scotland, but it's next door to the world's biggest league.
Yeah,
it's literally next door to it. So, like, we don't view the Dutch league like that, where you have the 3 big clubs and the others, or we don't view maybe the Portuguese league, which is similar with the 3 big clubs and the others, because they're not right next door to the Premier League. The Scottish League is I can't speak for Steven, but it's well known that he had other opportunities, and he felt that this one was the right one, the right time. I personally, at the time, had people that were interested in taking me as a manager in the months previous. So it came to a head. Steven decided to go, and I wanted to be part of his next management team as well, because our working relationship was so good. I haven't worked with Steven now for a good couple of years, but what I will say is that he's unbelievable in the way that he manages and treats his staff. I think he's absolutely first class. So there was no way that I was going to break the bond at that time. So we went to the Premier League. It was a difficult job when we went in, because Aston Villa were losing a manager they were very fond of in Dean Smith, but they were in the bottom couple of places in the Premier League. In that 23 or 24 games that we had to the end of the season in the Premier League, we would have actually finished 9th if the league would have started from when we went in. So it was a really fantastic experience to go and work in the Premier League against all those managers. Like you had Thomas Tuchel was at Chelsea at the time, obviously Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp. We got to play against those guys. We had a really talented group, albeit they needed more belief. We felt they'd come up from the Championship, but a lot of the players also only had their first or second season in the Premier League. And what you can see, certainly last year, I felt under Emery, Aston Villa is a club that's got fantastic backing in the fans, but also very good backing from the owners as well. I think everyone's excited to see where Aston Villa goes this year. But if I go back to that period, there was a lot of really good young players as well. It was a fascinating time, very different to Rangers. The demands are different, In all fairness, the Rangers have to win every game and try and win it with style. Of this criticism, where Aston Villa, it was different. You were a team that was maybe struggling in the Premier League or expected to finish in that middle pack where we did. So completely different, but still, the clubs that we're talking about, and we're talking about them very quickly here, Christy, they're all wonderful clubs. When I first started out in that church hall, to go and work for these clubs at the level I did, and the players that I've worked with has been magnificent.